Every night, we look at the night sky and see stories written in light. We see the flickering diamonds of distant suns, and we tell ourselves they are eternal, peaceful, and constant. We name them after our gods and use them to guide our ships. But the truth is far more terrifying. Across the endless universe, we are merely silent observers of a slow-motion massacre. The stars we admire are not just lights. They are massive nuclear engines turning matter into energy for millions of years. And like all engines, they eventually run out of fuel. In the cosmic lens of the universe, a dying star is not a quiet exit. It is a planetary crime scene that can last for eons. When a star begins to fail, the rules of rock and stone end, and the rule of the monster begins. It becomes a violent colossus, a ball of energy that flattens anything in its path, ripping entire systems apart, just to decorate its own funeral. From the scorched monument of Mercury to the wicked sister, Venus, we have seen the scars that stellar violence leaves behind. Today, we take a one-way journey into the heart of a stellar collapse. We are going to find out why a dying star is the ultimate hunter, why its beauty is a trap, and why, if you were to stand in its shadow, you would be crushed, melted, and vaporized long before you ever saw the end. This is why you can never survive the death of a sun. To understand the horror of a dying star, you have to understand its hunger. Our own sun is a stable, middle-aged star, but it is already a monster of gravity and heat. One day, its magnetic heart will stop beating as it is today, and the shield will collapse. As the hydrogen fuel in its core runs out, the star will not simply go dark. It will expand. It will transform into a red giant, a dark, stormy giant that grows so massive it could swallow its children whole. We have already seen the preview of this nightmare on Mercury. Mercury is a victim, a survivor of the most violent event in its history, standing as a scorched monument to the power of our sun. As a star dies and grows, it becomes an incinerator that never turns off. Imagine standing on a world near an expanding star. The sun in your sky wouldn't be a friendly yellow ball. It would be a bloodshot eye, staring back at you 3 times, then 10 times, then 100 times larger than it is today. The light would be so bright it would kill you instantly. We see the ghost of this future on Venus, once a world with cool oceans and blue skies. Venus reached a tipping point where its oceans boiled away. This is the fate of any world near a dying star. The heat is trapped by a runaway greenhouse effect, turning a paradise into a toxic, freezing, foul-smelling hellscape. The very air becomes a suffocating fog of chemicals, and you would be instantly blinded by the sheer intensity of the stellar radiation. For stars much larger than our sun, the end is not a slow expansion, but a catastrophic violence that defies human imagination. When these stars run out of fuel, they can no longer support their own weight. In an instant, the heart stops beating and the star collapses. This causes a massive explosion we call a supernova. A supernova is a painting of violence. Its blast shines brighter than an entire galaxy. Yet at the center of this destruction, something new and terrifying is born. If you were anywhere near this event, you wouldn't just be killed. You would be disintegrated before the sound of the explosion could even reach your ears. Imagine the energy. This explosion hurls high-energy radiation outward into space at nearly the speed of light. It is an invisible fire, like the radiation belts of Jupiter, that act as a giant particle accelerator. A supernova bombards the universe with lethal radiation. If you were on a nearby planet, your DNA would begin to unravel before you could even radio for help. Your electronics would fry, and your cameras would dissolve into static. This is the screaming of a star as it dies. It is a deafening roar that replaces the silence of the void. In this moment, the star is a lord of chaos, a violent colossus that shreds everything it once protected. Not every star becomes a black hole. Some leave behind a frozen zombie core. These are white dwarfs, the leftover seeds of a world that was murdered. They are practically cannonballs in space, incredibly heavy and far too massive for their tiny size. A white dwarf is an iron prison. It is a world of iron and silence, where the gravity is so cruel it pulls the very surface inward. On a world like Mercury, we see the planet shrinking and imploding as its core cools. A dead star does the same, but on a scale that bends the very fabric of the universe. If you tried to approach a dead star, you would feel the crushing weight of its gravity. On Venus, the pressure is 90 times greater than on Earth, making you feel like you are 1 kilometer deep under the ocean. Near a white dwarf, that pressure is millions of times higher. You would be crushed, melted, and vaporized by the gravity alone. The light from these dead stars is dim, a hazy yellow smear in a permanent freezing twilight. It is no longer a bringer of life, but a distant, flickering star lost in the sea of obsidian. Around these zombie cores, the rules of life do not apply. There is only extreme cold supersonic screams and crushing silence. But for the most massive stars, death is not the end of their pull. It is the beginning of their life as a hunter. When the star's incredibly dense core keeps collapsing, it becomes a single point of unimaginable mass. A black hole is born. This is a deep well in the fabric of space and time. It is a place where light itself cannot escape. It is the ultimate trap. As you approach, you see a perfect circle of black surrounded by a glowing disk of gas and dust. It looks peaceful from far away, but as you get closer, you feel a pull you cannot resist. Ahead of you is the event horizon, the one-way gate to forever. It is like the edge of a giant waterfall. Once you cross, there is no return. Imagine the personal descent. As you fall toward the center, the process of spaghettification begins. Because you are falling feet first, the pull of gravity on your feet is much stronger than the pull on your head. Your body is pulled apart, stretched and stretched like a piece of string. You are torn into a stream of atoms long before any pain signals could reach your brain. You become part of a river of matter flowing into a point of infinite density called the singularity. This is where our understanding of physics breaks down. It is the final end where information is lost forever. The star that once gave life has become a bottomless pit of swirling chaos. Imagine you were lucky enough to be on a moon orbiting a star in its final days. You would look up and see a sky that breathes, its breath made of shadows. The sun would no longer be a steady light. It would be a chaotic engine of heat and energy, waiting to explode. You would stand on a frozen wasteland of jagged ice, hard as granite and sharp as razor blades. The atmosphere would be a toxic, freezing, foul-smelling hellscape. And every time you took a breath, you would smell the overwhelming stench of rotten eggs. The seasons would be the stuff of nightmares. You might experience 42 years of constant, unblinking sunlight, followed by 42 years of absolute pitch-black darkness as the dying star's gravity knocks your planet over or strips away the air. You would watch as your oceans evaporate and your living world turns to rust. You would be a prisoner of the radiation, forced to hide in caves or lava tubes like insects hiding from a storm. You would not be an explorer. You would be a silent observer of your own extinction. Despite the terrifying secrets of these dying suns, we continue to send our emissaries. We have sent rovers to Mars and orbiters to Jupiter, and eventually we will send them to watch the stars die. But even our robots cannot survive forever. Like the Cassini spacecraft that was ordered to commit suicide by diving into the monster it studied, or the Venera probes that died on the surface of Venus in just 127 minutes. Our machines are merely melting monuments on a dead world. We leave behind metal bodies scattered across the dunes and charcoal dark rings of the solar system. They are monuments to our curiosity and reminders of how difficult this universe truly is. They are ghosts in the great, deafening silence. Why do we look at these beautiful pale blue corpses and failed stars? Why do we study the laboratory of atmospheric madness that is a dying sun? Because a dying star is a mirror. It shows us how fragile a planet really is. It shows us that an atmosphere is a gift, not a guarantee. It is a reminder of just how precious our fragile existence is. We live on a chaotic, noisy, living blue marble that is just right for now. But the cosmic silence of the universe is a reminder that the cosmos is not made for us. We are just small guests living in the shadow of giants, standing on a single miracle blooming in a barren cosmic desert. A dying star reminds us that beauty is a trap and beauty can be deadly. It reminds us that sometimes the universe leaves behind scars that last for eternity. Stay curious, keep looking up, because the more we learn about the deepest darkness, the more we find the deepest questions about our own existence. And the journey to finally find those answers is what makes us human.